Welcome back to OpenLine. On this Veterans Day, we are hearing from veterans, inspirational stories from veterans, and happy now to have with us Wayne Duggar. Wayne, thank you for being with us. Of course, Rusty Carroll's still with us from Operation Finally Home. We heard about that in the first segment. Wayne, tell us your story.
No.
Welcome and tell us your story.
Welcome and tell me your story. Okay. I guess it started to be a long time ago. I'm a Vietnam vet, 101st Airborne. We did what we did. I was infantry and came home. America was changed a little. I fell into the same, tried to forget military, went to work like the rest of us did. It was a long time before I ever really came back and took a hard look at my service. Okay, well, when I did, what woke me up was seeing other veterans and their struggles, and it always seemed that there should be a better way, that there should be some way that they didn't have to struggle so hard. And it's the brotherhood that we feel toward each other is remarkable in how it's like a magnet. It draws you to the other veterans, and you try to figure out how can I make their life a little bit less painful, maybe. And so anyway, I guess in our community in Robertson County, we noticed that there were an inordinate number of older veterans, and consequently we saw more widows of those older veterans as they were passing away. And those widows were having a tough time navigating the bureaucracy to get any benefits which they might have been entitled to. And there wasn't really a great network established for helping people get to where they needed to be, point A to point B, within that bureaucracy. And watching these ladies struggle, and they would take them anywhere from a year to maybe 2 years to get end results with their claims. And that's what got me started with this. We partnered with the county mayor so we could get access to the VA and through the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, which, by the way, is a wonderful organization. And we partnered with them so that we could help these folks. And we created what we believed was a tremendous network of help for these folks. And it started there. And we had no idea where it would lead. But there was a time early on when my wife and I were down in Dixon having lunch with my brother, and I got a phone call. And used to get lots and lots of phone calls. It's not that many anymore, but still get lots. But anyway, this gentleman was having a really rough time, and he had lost all hope. I guess that's the simplest way to put it. He had simply lost all hope. And I'm not a counselor. I don't do that well, but it sort of concerned me, overly scared me, in fact, that he was going to do something foolish. And so I just started trying to talk to him and trying to get him to tell me, okay, kind of tell me what your problems are. Because I have some really good friends that are counselors, and I listen sometimes.
Right.
And but anyway, his biggest concerns was being able to feed his family. And a light came on. Well, this is a whole lot bigger problems here than filling out paperwork, So anyway, he was needed food for his family. And so I just asked him, I said, well, make me a list. Tell me what you need. And he started doing that, naming off what he did, real basic stuff. And I asked him if he knew where Springfield Kroger was. And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'll meet you there in an hour. It'll take me about that long to get there. So my wife and I zipped up the highway and met him at Kroger. And he was like so many veterans. He didn't want much. He wanted very, very little, the minimum, bare minimum. But if you've ever gone shopping with my wife, she don't do it that way. So she filled up his shopping cart, and we went on about our business there. Well, that sort of morphed into a whole different thing. We started looking harder for the needs, the basic needs of our vets, instead of just helping them. We still wanted to do that, of course, help them navigate that paperwork, but we wanted to determine what made them hurt.
So you were a Vietnam veteran.
Yes.
And you had this experience when you came home.
Yes.
Do you think the need is greater with veterans today than veterans back in the Vietnam era, or are people recognizing it more? Or how would you compare the needs?
I think all those things have remained constant. I think that the needs were the same for Vietnam vets. They weren't recognized then. The guys that are coming home now are hurt really badly, but they're hurt in a different way sometimes, and they're heartbreakers for me. These guys coming home today, I've said a million times that I'm really, really glad that the criminal justice system today is not, when I came back, is not what it is today, because there's very little wiggle room for a vet coming home today that's having trouble adjusting. You know, they can get in trouble really fast, and we've helped several of the younger vets when they come back. They trying to struggle through some of the problems they get into, and we have found several friendly ears with law enforcement and judicial branches, and you'll see. In Nashville, they've moved really quickly. In Montgomery County, they moved really quickly to establish veterans courts, where we didn't ever ask for them to get off scot-free. That was never something. What we wanted them to do was take into account the service they provided to the nation, and to say, well, you know, these guys might just need a little time to adjust, or they might have trouble with alcoholism, or they might have trouble with some of the prescription drugs that the VA has given them, maybe to address some of their illnesses or whatever. And you have to take all those things into account. And if you just take a black and white attitude toward anything, you don't get the true picture. It needs to be in color.
So how would you describe the need now? Is it getting better? Is it still enormous?
It's enormous.
I think what it is as well is you have 1% of the country that serves our country.
Right.
The other 99% don't understand, and there's a perception that the veterans are taken care of.
Right.
And that's where we're finding this need for outreach and education and visibility to the issues that the veterans face that have caused organizations such as yours, ours, and the ones that we've spoke about here to help fill that gap, because that need has always been there. It's just been a challenge to educate and inform and understand from a civil standpoint the need that needs to be filled, that has always been.
And that has been talked about, that it is essentially 1% of the country that's fighting these wars and these conflicts. Maybe that wasn't the case with Vietnam, with the draft and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
There was more awareness, at least. So where do things stand now? You're saying enormous need.
Enormous need.
So is it what can we do? Enormous need.
Well, I don't have that answer. I wish I did.
I think you do. He listens.
Well, I do listen.
And that's what it is.
What we do in our little post in Greenbrier, American Legion Post 45, is we open the doors and we say, veterans, come in. We've always got a hot cup of coffee for you. We got a donut. We've got someone who's been where you've been, someone who will understand you when you talk to them. And I have found that if you just sit quietly and listen to these guys, they'll tell you exactly what their problems are. If you push them, they're going to roll up in a shell and they won't tell you anything. But if you let them be themselves and you put them in a room with other combat vets that understand how they feel, then they're going to have a friend. They're going to unfold to you, and they're going to tell you what their problems are.
And so I think that's a fascinating point about the 1%. So what about the other vast majority of the country, the 99%, whatever, people who haven't been affected by these wars in this way? What can they do? What should they be doing? What are some things on this Veterans Day we should be thinking about?
Well, we're doing a really good job, I think, nationally of highlighting what the veterans do. I'm really really excited to see that. The more programs like this, the more Mr. Martinez, JR, he was in my unit in 101st, and he was on Dancing with the Stars. So that brought visibility
to pop culture.
Everybody saw JR and they thought, man, and he's handicapped or he's disabled or supposedly. And, I have found, by the way, that the folks that are really disabled are the last ones to ever admit they're disabled. Everybody else says, oh, they're disabled. Well, no, really not, But, that's kind of all attitude. And we have, of course, I'm sort of proud of the 101st. These guys, they go back to 4, 5, 6 deployments. They don't gripe. They don't complain. They just keep going. And, a lot of them get off the planes on the tarmac at Fort Campbell wanting to know when they're going back. That's how they are. They're just really, really good people, and they all have the idea that we're here because we know that somebody's got to stand post. Somebody has to fight this battle. And so they go do that, and they go willingly.
The thing that I would add is I'll go back to what I said earlier. If you simply listen, you're going to be guided to something that's compelling to you. You're going to gain a better appreciation for what these individuals and their families have gone through, and it's going to touch you. And it's going to touch you in a way that you're going to find a way that I can help in a manner that I can help based on my experience, my community, be what it may, and you will find a connection and find a way that's compelling to you to help.
But our post, thankfully, is able to. We feed a lot of veterans. We have our creed, our thing that we don't ever do. We never turn one away. If they show up and they're hungry and they need help or they need a tank of gas or they need a week's worth of groceries, our post will do that. And that's kind of our calling. That's what we're supposed to be doing. One of the things that's happened since this started airing was a veteran that passed away in our community, and rather suddenly. And after
here
seeing
in the last couple of weeks.
Right, just here in the last couple of weeks. And after seeing through the media the wonders of television that there are good things being done for veterans, the lady thought that it would be a really good thing to put any money, rather than spend it on flowers, to put it toward those efforts instead. So that's what she asked all of the friends and family to do. So that's one way. See, American Legion, we don't charge for anything, and it's and consequently we only get funds when people donate them to us. So it's that's what we use.
Well, then I ask Daryl, and I'll ask you, how could people donate? What could they do to help?
If they wanted to, we have a Veteran Service office in City Hall in Greenbrier. That is, the guys are there, and if anybody wanted to donate to help local veterans and to Post 45 American Legion in Greenbrier, they can drop a check off to those guys at City Hall in Greenbrier if they want to do that.
Well, I hope they do. I hope they do. And I guess we have a few more minutes left. Do you think, and it's fascinating to have your perspective, you came back from Vietnam, I understand you didn't feel appreciated, many soldiers didn't feel appreciated. How do soldiers today feel? Do they feel appreciated? What is your view of that?
I think, honestly, they feel ignored. But I don't think it bothers them. They're a tremendously talented and dedicated group of souls, and they don't spend a lot of time worrying about what anyone else is thinking about them. The public is not being negative or positive in most instances, so there's nothing for them to see. When the Vietnam vets came home, in some cases at least, but a lot of cases, sadly, they saw a very negative response from the public at large. So the vets had reason to think, well, something's not right, something here. So that's kind of the difference. These guys, when they are out in the public, what they see is a very patriotic America. And you see it at major sports events. You see it in the programs that are with people trying to help them. You know, there's lots of it. And it's so when they're off post, when they're at home, then they're getting to witness that, a very positive response.
I do think the community seems to be more understanding and sympathetic to veterans today, and you do have more visibility of opportunities to support them than what the Vietnam era
no doubt
veterans
about
had.
that. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Wayne Duggar, thank you. Thank you for your
Yes,
story.
sir.
Thank you for everything. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. We're going to take a break, and Gino is going to come up next. We're going to bring up Gino. And we know
Gino's going to hug you.
That's right. All right, so we'll take a break. Be back right after this.
Okay.